Well, good morning, councillors. Ooh, we got an echo. Good morning, councillors, and good morning, members of the staff present, and good morning to members of the community viewing it on live stream. This is a special meeting that's a carryover from last year that was adjourned due to a lack of quorum. Before we get underway, we'll do what we normally do with our opening of meetings and acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we gather, the Darumba people, and pay respects to the elders past and present. Councillors, we need a procedural motion to resume the 21st of December 2023 meeting, which was adjourned. Can I get a move, Councillor Friend? Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Swadling. Actually, procedural motion, we only need one, don't we? So, yeah, all right. So, all in favour? Carried. Thank you very much. All right, the matter at hand today, councillors, is a, pardon me, I've got a croaky voice today, is a notice of motion from Councillor Bello in relation to seeking independent legal advice. So, Councillor Bello, do you want to speak to your notice of motion before we go to questions?
I'd certainly like to move the motion that's before us, councillors, for your consideration.
All right, any questions, councillors? Councillor Friend?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I do have a question, but I have a little bit to say first, just to put the question into context.
Sure.
Thank you. So a motion on notice is a request to council for a decision to be made or action to be taken. It should be a written document, which this is, that outlines the background to why the request is being made and what the potential outcome implications are for the council making this decision. The background in this talks about times when governance and regulatory processes are anything but clear. However, does not transparently talk about why this is so and what the outcome hopes to achieve. Mr Mayor, I found this notice of motion quite vague. So I'm going to ask Councillor Bello and Councillor Eastwood and Mather. I wish to know why this special meeting was called. Because it appears that there was great urgency to call this special meeting when this notice of motion could have been included in next week's ordinary meeting and on the 16th of January. So I do put this out to all three councillors who call this meeting, Councillors Bello, Eastwood and Mather, what the urgency around this is.
I'd be happy to answer that question, and I guess in one word it would be my duty to do this. So if you want anything further than that, that's probably where I leave it. Although actually no, I could provide some more above and beyond my duty that I feel it is. I submitted this motion within the time frame for the last ordinary meeting of last year. However, there was some question about the clarity of different things, and the CEO, who's not here today, it would be unfair of me to speak directly for the CEO, but to paraphrase it was, well, Councillor Bello, I decided to withdraw the motion because I was unclear about few things relating to it. So the motion was not submitted on the ordinary agenda, despite being provided within the appropriate time frame. I was frustrated by that. We all want to get the job done. We want to really represent our electorate and to the best of our ability. That's the oath that we've sworn. So I thought, well, what other mechanism do I have? Oh, there is one. That's right, a special meeting. Why don't we try that? And that's where we are today. Well, actually, we are here today mindful that at the end of last year, unfortunately, we couldn't get a quorum. That's understandable. Sometimes that happens. And so that's why we are here today.
Certainly, but there seemed to be, special meetings seem to have some urgency about them. Was there a particular urgency in this notice of motion?
I think in terms of a person's subjective opinion, what's urgent and what's not is that person's entirely. And if you feel that this is not urgent, that's understandable. I felt it warranted it. And for reasons that I hold dear to my heart, and that's why I've put it forward.
Right. Thank you, councillor Bello. Any other questions on this motion, councillors? Is there a question, councillor Mather, or are you going to make a statement? Because we'll go to debate. We'll get a, councillor Bello is moving. I'll get a seconder before we go forward.
Well, I'm just referring to councillor Friend's
Question? Sure. Okay.
Is that,
Yeah, that's right. I did ask. That's correct.
so are we in confidentiality at the moment?
No, we're not.
Okay, we don't need this one then.
No, you do. We're not in
Mr Mayor, we're here because there's a matter that's been brewing in the back room for 7 months. And although we've been given information by one of our legal teams,
Councillor Mather, what matter are you referring to? I would caution you at this point.
well, Mr Mayor, we had some advice here by one of our legal teams some time back. I'm referring to that matter.
Yeah, but that's not referred to in this particular notice of motion.
Well, it
Councillor Mather.
relates, it directly relates to it.
We are here today to deal with this particular notice of motion, which refers to seeking legal advice on
Independent
legal advice in relation
Yes.
to confidentiality. It
Yes.
mentions nothing about anything in the
And
past.
nothing about,
Anything in the past.
well, it all relates to the past. We cannot disassociate because we've been constantly reminded of the need for confidentiality. And I've certainly upheld that, and I would expect my colleague or anybody who knows anything would do the same. This is not about confidentiality. There is no threat to confidentiality. I need to stress that, certainly from my point of view. But I'm concerned that we are entering into caretaker mode. There's a matter that's been directly, as I said, directly related to what we're doing today, to get another piece of advice. And that's all it is, to get some advice. Independent advice, somebody who's not on our payroll.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all. I think anybody would be reasonable to think, well, if that's all they want, if that's all that satisfies them, then I don't see a problem. Because, you know, when we put our foot out, we like to know, and we've done it plenty of times, we like to know that we're on solid ground.
Fair
And
enough.
that's all it is, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Mather. All right, Councillor Easton, are you making a comment or
I think I
replying to
believe-
the question?
I believe I'm asked to, Mr Mayor, so yeah, I would like to. Look, I think that any time when independent legal advice is asked or sought, it's not such a bad thing. I too, I guess with it missing the last, this actual agenda item, missing the last meeting deadline, or it was actually in the deadline but then got left out, and the meeting not going ahead, it sort of, without any secondary legal advice up to that time, and I do realise that now we have had some legal advice, and I wouldn't even call it the 23rd hour, I'd say the 25th hour, because it was actually after the last meeting was called. So I just think it's my responsibility to, when I was asked if I would put my name to it, I actually thought that yes, it's always good to talk these things over in a meeting with my colleagues, and then we can come to a resolution that's fair, and I'll abide by whatever we come to.
Thank you. Mr Mayor, I have another question. Just from what Councillor Eastwood just said, we have now had more legal advice. What do you mean by that? So if there has been further, then what is this motion doing?
We did. I mean, I think we all saw the memo from King and Co that came through at 9 o'clock last night, or whenever it came through. So that gave some advice, or I wouldn't even say advice, leading us in the right direction. But the thing is, this motion was already there, so we've turned up to discuss it. It was too late at 9 o'clock last night to withdraw the thing, and plus I think Councillor Bello. Actually, no, I won't say that. I'll refrain. Thank you.
Mr Mayor, could I just clarify that a little bit? Councillor Eastwood is correct that the advice, and it's not the CEO or the acting CEO's, it's his problem, but it's not his fault, because he received it at after 5 p.m. and we obviously got that after that time again. We sought an opinion from this firm some time back and it was unable to be sought. But here we are on the 11th hour, 9 pages roll out, and we're lay people. We don't have the ability to decipher, absorb and analyse and make a decision on that advice at this point in time. This is why advice needs to be independent, Mr Mayor. I'm not saying that we need to disregard it, but I'm saying it's not the be-all, end-all, because we tried before, it didn't come forward. Now we've got it at the 11th hour. We need something different.
All right, well, councillors, I'm going to move on, but that particular piece of advice that was provided last night, I think was intention from the acting CEO was just for information only. Certainly, I don't think there's any expectation that it would have any bearing on today's outcome.
Well, we certainly will take it into account,
Yes,
Mr Mayor, sure.
All right, we've got a mover in Councillor Bello. Can I get a seconder, please?
I'll second, Mr Mayor.
All right, seconded Councillor Mather. All right, any further questions? Councillor Watson.
Just to Councillor Bello, I've been reading this notice of motion over and over again, and it doesn't flow in my head, and I'm just hoping you can explain it a bit clearer to me, because I'm struggling with it. I must have read it 20 times, and I just can't seem to get it to flow when I read, and I'm just hoping, as I said, just clarify it a bit better, maybe.
Yeah, look, I appreciate the question there, Councillor Watson, and totally understand that these types of matters are confusing, and it requires people of extreme competency in law to be able to assist those of us who don't have that capability, which I'm one of them. Absolutely. Essentially, though, I guess to narrow down within the motion there, what it's really trying to help councillors understand, it relates to where, particularly in respect of ethical conduct concerns that we have, those obligations may appear to be in conflict with statutory obligations of confidentiality. So it's difficult to perform your function, which we are obligated to under the Local Government Act in 12.3D, to be accountable to the community for the local government's performance, if you're not certain, if you're not absolutely certain about where you are able to go, what information you are able to be afforded, what you are able to say in relation to matters that may have a strict confidentiality requirement for good reason. However, it's important then to know absolutely categorically what you can and cannot do. That's what this is about. I could have worded the motion like that. Can we get legal advice to know what we can or cannot do in relation to confidential matters that also require us to perform a function as part of our job to be accountable for the performance of the council? That's the best way that I could put it forward. I recognise that at times I put motions across here that are very poorly written.
I agree with that.
I put motions across here that probably reflect my level of education, or perhaps I'm a tradesman. However, I do the best I can to put them for you, and I hope that you have the ability to acknowledge that we're all of different theoretical competency here. I would be the classic layman in this case, so it's about being able to do our job the very best we can. Thank you. Hopefully that satisfies the question.
Thank you. Councillor Bello, I guess in response to, we all suffer from that malaise from time to time in terms of lack of ability to express things. That's why we have senior officers of council who are employed to help us with that. So I just encourage you to avail yourself of those services.
In response, Mr Chair, I can assure you I avail myself of the highest possible intellectual minds that I can. And it's not relying on my own ability per se, but many others that are prepared to provide mentorship and support. Indeed, the officers are those at times, and there is others outside of the officers. So I'm grateful for the contribution of many of those people over the years. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Friend.
Yeah, thank you. I have another question in relation to seek independent legal advice from an appropriately skilled and experienced law firm. Did you have someone in mind, Councillor Bello? And then I also have a question for Mr. Acting CEO.
No, it would be very unprofessional of me to nominate a particular firm. That would sort of indicate as if potentially I've got someone lined up that we could. No. There is a myriad of legal firms that have enormous capability in industrial relations matters that this council could go to seek that advice. So far better to direct in the motion the intent without going to the specifics of who that particular firm should be. As you know, we tried before with a very well-established law firm who on that occasion said, oh no, we couldn't possibly provide that advice. I'm sorry, that's too complex. We're not going to go there. But alas, it turned up yesterday. We didn't even ask for it. Well, I didn't ask for it. The table didn't ask for it. But it showed up on our doorstep. So they've obviously had a change of heart, which was encouraging. But independent legal advice is what this is seeking.
So, Councillor Bello, when you speak about this law firm that declined to assist, in what context was that? Was that through a formal request?
Councillor Friend, I think we're getting off topic
Right.
a little bit.
I do have a question for the Acting CEO.
Yep.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Acting CEO, what firms do councils deal with usually?
Sorry, through the chair, we have a list of suppliers who are pre-approved. They're on the website that's been provided. There's a myriad of them on there. There is a number of them that are pre-qualified to supply to us, or outside of that, we can approach any firm as long as we have a prescribed way of contracting those people.
Thank you.
Another question. So it's back. Oh.
Sorry, councillors, those of you who have lights on and aren't speaking, can I ask you to turn them off? Thank you.
But just back to Councillor Bello, I'm just rereading it again, and it says, particularly in respect of ethical conduct concerns, those obligations may appear to be in conflict with statutory obligations of confidentiality. We don't have anything in front of us that says that there are any ethical conduct concerns or any conflict of statutory obligations. Why are you asking for it if we don't have this information? Because I'm struggling to vote for something that I have no knowledge of. And do you have that knowledge?
Fair question. I've found myself in experiences over time, and both real and hypothetical experiences, that would put you in a position where you are unsure of your ability to do your function as your job because of the concerns of confidentiality. It is not uncommon for that to occur. I'm not going to go into any particulars of potential circumstances where that may have happened here, but I will answer it by saying that it wouldn't be uncommon for that to happen. Life is not black and white. Local government is not black and white. It is very complex, and there are times when one needs to get legal advice. That's the whole purpose of it. I find myself in an experience where I'm wanting to know with absolute clarity how do I perform the function of being accountable for the performance of this council if there potentially is confidentiality restrictions that would prevent me from being able to undertake certain action. If the legal advice states categorically, black and white, that's what it is, that's even better, because then we have absolute clarity. I don't have clarity at the moment, and I'm very eager to learn more about it.
May I ask what you're looking for in clarity? Because we don't have anything to have clarity. So you obviously had something that you want to have clarified, and you're asking us to help you get independent advice, but we don't know what it is that you're asking for.
If the table would be prepared to go into closed session, so then we could seek whether we could even talk about the subject of confusion, that would help. Otherwise, you're asking me to stand here and sit here and potentially say things that I don't believe I'm allowed to say. But I'd love to get the legal advice so that we could all know with categorical clarity that would be a good outcome.
Well, councillors, you have a notice of motion in front of you. I guess I'm just trying to bring us back to the topic in hand. My thing keeps dropping out. Can I get the resolution up on the screen, please, Luce? Thank you. So you've got the resolution there on the recommendation, I showed the motion, I beg your pardon, on the screen up there. So you have the option of either voting for it, or supporting it, or not supporting it. You've got a mover and a seconder. So at this point, I'm just asking, are there any further questions, any further comments? We are in debate. So I'm going to... Yeah, I'll come to you, Councillor Mather, thank you. So rather than go around asking people to speak for and against, I'm just going to open the floor and ask for comments, and then hopefully wrap this up with the debate, because my concern is going into a confidential session of council, we could potentially breach some confidentialities in terms of CCC investigations or whatever people are referring to, however they're referring to them, or whatever. So I'm just really concerned about that. So, Councillor Mather, you have a comment?
Yes, Mr Mayor, thank you. Number one, I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed that the CEO is not here, because he has some background, I understand, and
He's entitled to take leave, Councillor Mather.
he is, Mr Mayor, but this is important, this motion, because it's been held over from another previous meeting. And
I'm sure his substitute's more than capable of handling it.
I was just going to say that. I'm very confident that our acting CEO would have all the advice at his hand and utilise that. If we were to get some independent legal advice, and that's what it's all about, as to what you can be told, I don't believe that any advice sought from an independent organisation would be formed by the councillors. I believe it would be in conjunction with the councillors and the CEO at that time. So they'd have to be satisfied that any questions that we put to that company would be satisfactory to the CEO. And maybe it could go from there.
The problem is, as a comment, is you're asking for advice on something that we know nothing about.
Confidentiality.
Yeah, but what confidentiality? That's the issue. We don't know what this is all
Confidentiality
about.
prevents us from saying anything, and we respect that.
But you all obviously know something, and we have no
We do.
idea of what it is. And how are we to be able to vote on something we know absolutely nothing
Well,
about?
that's where trust comes into it.
Councillors, I think the motion in front of you is, whereas I agree with Councillor Watson, and I noted Councillor Bellow's comment about receiving expert advice on wording, I still find it very confusing. But it's really saying that they want to seek independent legal advice in respect of ethical conduct concerns in relation to statutory obligations of confidentiality. So that's what's before you at the moment. Councillor Eastwood.
Mr Mayor, I just got a question for Councillor Watson. I just wanted to him confirm with me who he was referring to when he said "you all."
Well, I'm sorry when I say all, but Councillor Mather said we do, and when she said that, that's all.
Okay, I can categorically say that I am totally in the dark myself.
When Councillor Mather said what she said, I was going off from that.
Councillor Swadlin.
Yes, just a statement. I think reading it, I'm a little confused totally about this motion because I don't know what's been happened or what's happened or what's going on, what people know, what they don't know. So, from my perspective, around particularly conflicts of interest and those issues around confidentiality, it's simply quite easily stated within our handbooks and our council regulations and rules and responsibilities. I'm pretty sure and pretty forte about those and know what's required in those, and I trust our senior officers in their legal opinions, or getting their legal opinions and advice that they give us. So, I mean, I'm still at a loss with it myself. I'm still trying to understand what's going on. Oh, yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you. Like Councillor Mather, Speaker.
If we actually were given permission to get that independent advice, then that's only to deal with confidentiality. And if that advice comes back and is the same as the one we received last night, it's dead and buried. Okay?
Yep.
But we need to have that advice so that the confidentiality of this whole issue can be known. If it's a closed book, it's a closed book. If it's not a closed book, then you'll know.
Councillor Watson.
Councillor Bello, I know you said we're talking about layman's terms and stuff like that, but last night's advice from the King & Co, was that not sufficient to give you the information you're looking for?
No, no, certainly not. I welcome their advice, which they weren't prepared to provide before. That's quite unusual, extraordinarily unusual. One would hope that a curious mind would say, wow, they didn't want to give it before. But at the last minute it turns up and it is a legal opinion. But bear in mind that lawyers, they don't deal necessarily in objective facts. That's why you get various opinions. That's why you have a defence and a prosecutor in every criminal court or civil court, and somebody wins in that scenario. So to think that we would take one legal firm's account as gospel and not be prepared to go, well, thank you for that. We would also like to get another opinion. Whether that be in the legal world or the medical world, it is a sensible, responsible thing to do. So that's how I would answer that question.
All right. Councillor Bello, with my devil's advocate hat on, I notice a little barb towards King & Company in there.
Mr. Chair, I didn't say King & Company.
Well,
I referred to a legal firm.
A legal firm that gave us the advice last night, which was distributed to you.
In confidentiality, with the confidentiality clause over that email.
Well, my apologies.
That's okay, thank you.
But the advice given to you from that firm was distributed yesterday. Now, I can fully understand when this matter first was given to them following a meeting during a break, them not actually wanting to make a comment because they probably didn't have enough information. And it was a little bit, I suppose, off the cuff for them. So I can understand them being reluctant to provide advice.
If I may be able to respond to that, nobody was going to force a particular legal firm into responding before they were ready to. No lawyer would do that, and no one was expecting of that. It was purely to get advice in a time frame that's their what's the right word? That is.
But a minute ago, you just said it was curious that they didn't provide advice.
Exactly. It is very curious that they didn't.
But it's not curious if someone came to you in your profession and said, I want an opinion right now, and you weren't in a position of delegate.
Well, if you're right, Mr. Chairman, absolutely. If someone come to me, and actually a lady rang me this morning and said, I need you to look at my bathroom. Hey, no problem, but it won't be happening this morning. Oh, okay, well, when could it happen? Friday, 10 o'clock. That could have occurred with the legal firm that we sought advice from. But categorically, the answer was not providing the advice. Okay, fair enough, guys.
But that's your prerogative. You could have also said to the customer this morning, and we're getting off track.
Yes.
I won't go there, Councillor Bello, but clearly I disagree with you.
Okay.
All right, councillors. Councillor Friend, you got a question?
Not a question, Mr. Mayor, just a statement, not speaking for nor against at this time. But as I said earlier in my initial question, this is very vague. And I also am perplexed because I'm really not quite sure exactly what type of legalities that Councillor Bello is wishing for. Is it the fact that the LG Local Government Act of 2009 being accountable to the community for local government performance? Is he asking does this outweigh the Privacy Act? Is that what I'm trying to get my head around it, Mr. Mayor? But, you know, we're asked to vote, and we were called into this special meeting by Councillor Bello, Councillor Mather and Councillor Eastwood. Councillor Eastwood has signed for a special meeting and actually stated that he knows nothing about what it's about. And I find that also perplexing. So we're here,
Mr. Mayor,
and we need to...
Point of order. I understand that the complexities of seeking a independent legal opinion. I don't know what the subject matter's about, but that doesn't matter. It's the importance of getting good legal advice in relation to whatever. It wouldn't make any difference.
So, yes, Mr. Mayor, I'm still perplexed at the whole wording of this notice of motion, and I'm still quite confused over the reasoning behind it and the literal outcomes that we're expected to be voting upon.
All right, well, I think a number of us have expressed our, I suppose, concern about the wording and the confusing aspects around this, but what it boils down to, I think, councillors and Councillor Bello, please correct me if I have this wrong, but I think what it's basically asking is that we seek independent legal advice around matters of confidentiality and what our statutory obligations are in relation to confidentiality in council matters. Have I got that correct, Councillor?
I think, Mr. Chair, that is a good assessment of it when you compare it with your responsibility that we have for the performance of this organisation, which we do. And at times that is going to mean that there's going to be issues of confidentiality that clearly the email last night was all about a subject that you now know a lot more about. The response from the lawyers in the email that you could have all been privy to read, the 9 pages of it, it was all about a certain subject. It wasn't a, hello, I'm Fred from Gympie and I'd like to chat to you about it. It was all about the complexities of confidential matters that relate to ethical issues. You guys have got the email, I've read it, I'm sure you've read it, so you would have a fair understanding that I'm actually asking to get advice on that subject content on your behalf and my behalf. So it's actually not that unclear because the legal firm that provided you 9 pages of information last night have made it exceptionally clear of what their opinion is on a certain subject. I'm wanting to get another opinion on the same subject.
Well, I think it's a good thing, Councillor Bello, that the information from that law firm that was distributed yesterday clarified things for you, because I think the level of confusion is around initially your notice of motion.
So, Mr. Mayor...
We want to wrap this up, councillors.
Oh, Mr. Mayor, in taking that into consideration and just listening to Councillor Bello then, I asked Councillor Bello, would you be prepared to amend some of the wording on that so that it's actually a clear, concise notice that we can vote upon, not the way it sounds, but what, you know, a more clear, concise with wording of...
If it captures the intent of that motion, I don't mind how you wordsmith it. If it captures the intent of the motion, happy to change it. Would welcome changes.
Well, I think the change needs to come from you, Councillor Bello, because ultimately it's your notice of motion. So,
Mr. Chair, to expect me to change something that I've come up with the best of my ability, it's like saying to somebody who gets a...
No, it's entirely fair to ask that, Councillor Bello.
What, to ask me to reword the motion in a way that satisfies Councillor Friend or Councillor Swadling? How would I know?
Point of order, Mr. Mayor, in a way that actually is concise, easy to understand for all, because this notice of motion, once it may be passed, the words will remain. So we need to look at making it clear and concise. Now we have an idea of what you're after, Councillor Bello. We just need to change some of the wording, I believe, not just to satisfy me, but to satisfy future generations that are going to be reading the history of these notices of motions.
Excellent. I welcome any changes to make it more clear. I have proven unable to do that. So I would welcome the collective minds of those here to produce better wording that captures the intent of that motion. Thank you.
Just going to suggest that, Councillor Mather, thank you. So perhaps a procedural motion to adjourn pending reconsideration of this notice of motion wording. All in favour? Carried unanimously, thank you. We'll shut that off, thanks Lucy. on the screen now is the, we'll regard it as, yeah, no, I'm just, before we get on back into there, we'll. In favour? Carried unanimously. Move and a seconder to come out, sorry. I'll move, seconded, councillor Swaddling. No, sorry, we're resuming from a break, aren't we? My mistake, sorry. Just, yeah, procedural motion from me. I'll get my head into this in a minute. All right. So we're live again, Luce? Yeah. All right. So councillors, following the break, we have a new motion, which I shall read out for the benefit of the community members viewing it on live stream. And it reads that 1, council seeks independent legal advice on its statutory obligations to prioritise confidentiality obligations of integrity laws over discharging parallel responsibilities required by Section 12 of the Local Government Act 2009, including, in parenthesis, being accountable to the community for the local government's performance. For example, in relation to public information interest disclosures and CCC investigations involving all staff and councillors. And 2, the advisor also be requested to outline practical steps councillors can take to reconcile any conflicts between such duties. All right, you got a mover in Councillor Bello and a seconder in Councillor Mather. Councillor Bello, did you want to wrap up on this?
Thank you, Mr Mayor and councillors, for your contribution here this morning. It was somewhat regrettable that these are the circumstances that it's happened under. However, that is what we've signed up for, and that is sometimes the nature of the service that we have pledged to do. If this motion is successful, I will look forward to being representative in the first word there, as in council, as in I will look forward, as perhaps you will also, to be able to sit, whether it be face-to-face with a lawyer, whether it be over the phone, whether it be via written correspondence, to be able to exhaust all of the concerns that I have and the questions that I have to ensure that I can perform my function at the highest possible standard that I hope to be able to do for the little bit of time left in this term. So I look forward to your support on this if you are prepared to. Thank you.
All right, councillors. I've got to move Councillor Bello, seconded Councillor Mather. We've wrapped up, Councillor Eastwood.
I don't understand how we went straight to wrapping up, Mr Mayor, without any debate.
We did have debate, councillor.
Prior
to going into the
it's on a separate motion, Mr Mayor, and I just would have thought that the normal procedure would have been to have had debate and then wrapping up.
Well, I just invited Councillor Bello to wrap up, Councillor Eastwood. You would have the opportunity then to speak if you wanted to. Well, I thought I asked you to wrap it up, Councillor. Did I ask for wrapping up? Yes. All right.
Which is.
Councillor Eastwood, I'll give you the courtesy of speaking to it.
Thanks,
Right,
Mr.
but
Mayor.
after this, we're going to the vote.
Yeah, look, I just think that it is really, really important that we do seek legal advice, not only in this situation, but any time when something's unclear, that we actually aren't scared of going forward and making sure that we do get as much advice as we can for councillors to make good decisions, to act appropriately. And so due to that, I'm absolutely got no problems in supporting Councillor Bello's motion, and I do ask that my fellow councillors would also support it. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome. All right. We've got a mover, Councillor Bello, seconded Councillor Mather. Debate is now closed. We'll go to the vote. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so that being the only matter on our agenda today, we'll close the meeting and thank everyone for their attendance and bid adieu to our members of the community on live stream. Good morning, everyone.